Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors for April 27th, 2021. Please stand, those of you who are here, for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple people online, so we'll do a roll call for attendance. Ms. Kuzer?
Okay. Mrs. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Wenger?
Here.
Mrs. Miles?
Here.
Dr. Royer?
Here.
Mrs. Bakedel?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Strite?
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Here.
And Mrs. Harold?
Here. Okay, the agenda, I don't believe there's any changes, are there, Dr. Klein?
Or with the personnel with the addition of those.
The addition
changes,
to
the changes
item
to the
2.
positions. Yes, to the.
Okay, so there's an addition. What do you want to call it? Just salary information?
Oh, it is on there. Administrative changes.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Oh, we're good then?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so if not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. You get that, Ms. Kuzer? Probably not. You're muted, I think.
Who was the first?
Let's give it to Mrs. Zimmerman. And then give the second to Mrs. Straight. Okay, on to the minutes. Anyone have any?
Hang on, we didn't vote.
Oh, we didn't vote. All those in favor to the agenda approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now on to the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Dr. Klein.
All right, I'll give you our pandemic or COVID-19 update so you have it. At this time, we have currently 2 positive students, one at the middle school and one at the high school. Over the last 14 days, we've had a total of 6 students, 3 at the middle school and 3 at the high school. We are happy to say that we have had no adults positive since, I believe, the 18th of March. And it was about that time we started doing vaccinations. And the 2 people that were in March didn't get the vaccination, but we have not had any positive adults since that time. So far, so good. And it actually reflects what some of the medical profession has told us, even after the first vaccination of some of the paired vaccinations. So we feel that's a pretty good thing. If you look at our total number of students, we're at 3% who have been positive. And if you look at staff, 12% and are positive. So compared to the state is around 36, and our staff's at 12. And I think Mr. Holtzman has an interesting, another supportive data that, we really believe that our kids and our staff were actually better off in school. And isn't our interesting piece of data to share that might support that?
As you might be aware, we're in a trust for medical insurance with about 20 other school districts. And so we do receive monthly information on positive cases, not only applying to Waynesboro, but also applying to the entire trust. So what we oftentimes do is we do a little comparison to say, what do our numbers look like from a positive case perspective compared to the trust? And when we look at everybody that's covered under our insurance, now this is just Waynesboro insurance, so employees and their dependents, about 1,000 people roughly. So going all the way back to year to date, which is going back to July 1 of last year, our rate was about 6.6%, but in the trust it was 7.4%. So again, we've been in session for the last year, but our rate is actually lower than what the remainder is of the trust from a positive case perspective. For the number of people below the age of 20, our rate was 1% and the trust was 1.5%. So again, a lower rate for students primarily, or people who qualify for that age group. The age groups that had the highest infection rate were the same, 20 to 44, surprisingly, infection rate. Immunized membership, this was kind of interesting, is that the number of people who have been immunized in Waynesboro for, again, these are employees and dependents, is about 21% at the time. This was as of April data. So there's always a bit of a lag. We're always going to see, March data. We're always going to see a bit of a lag. And the trust was about 19%. So we were 2% higher than the trust. And then one of the little facts that we thought was interesting is that most of the Waynesboro members received the Moderna and most of the LBT members received the Pfizer. So it was almost a 3-to-1 ratio in opposite directions.
And just one other thing, I think that aside from looking at this data and just thinking that we're probably better off being here, I think the other part of it is that our administrators and our staff made it work. They did all the right things to make it work, because when we started, it was dumb luck. We just decided to try it, and none of us knew what would happen. But I think people stepped up. They figured out what to do to help the situation and make it better to keep kids in school. And I think that's really what made it work, was over time, people figured out what to do with what was right to do. So
the community made it work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Community
At the end of the day, the community and employees made this work here.
And I will tell you, I think I shared with somebody, a quote from a famous management guru, and it was Peter Drucker, and he made a comment behind every great business, a difficult decision was made, or that a risk of a difficult decision, courageous, I think he called it, a courageous decision was made. So the reason I'm saying that is because I think the board, with the decision you had to make to go back to school, I think that fits that quote by Peter Drucker to the T. So anyhow, we wanted to share it with you tonight.
Well, my own 2 cents on that is, especially now with the data like we just got, it's hard to understand why people aren't back in school, because it says more kids are getting sick when they're home. I think they'd come back, but I guess that's their decision. So, okay, so thank you, Dr. Klein. Anything else?
That's
it. Good. Okay. Ms. Kuzer, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. I assume we don't have any from the people who are present here today. So we will move on to board reports. Does anybody have any committee meetings or anything? Nothing happening in the last couple weeks? For some reason, they all hit at the same weeks. I guess we didn't have any. Okay. All right. We will move on then to Dr. Sterner-Hein is giving us an Inspire presentation or inspiring presentation. Maybe both.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold. So you will find the presentation within the board docs, but I did make some changes, but it will appear here as well. Apparently, I cannot control the presentation. So Mr. Erickson will be doing it from the control room, I guess you want to call it. So in a way, this is just simply a recap of what we started in 2019-20, reminding the group that INSPIRE stands for Intensive Needs Supported by Positive Interaction and a Responsive Environment. Next slide. So the Waynesboro School District embarked on this exciting partnership with Laurel Life in 2019, 2020. So as you can tell, I am paraphrasing. And the goal of it was to provide trauma-informed care to create a safe and welcoming environment that empowers individuals and self-direct through self-healing, as well as collaborative and trusting relationships. I don't see it now.
Next slide.
Next slide. Sorry, I see Nick. Okay. So in 2019 and 2020, we began the INSPIRE program both at the elementary and at the middle school level. So in terms of some just general information, the WAMS INSPIRE program is staffed by, when I say affinity, I'm referencing Laurel Life, a master level therapist, a teacher, and behavioral monitor. It's located in the former STEM classroom. They have 15 full-time, or can have up to 15 full-time students or 25 part-time students, and it does service both regular and special education students. In terms of, next slide, some servicing and data information, Each learner receives up to 60 minutes of therapy each week by a master level therapist. And in terms of the actual one-to-one contact for academic supports, they receive between 5 to 10 hours, either through the teacher, the therapist, or the behavioral coach. The number of students that were serviced in the WAMS program in 2019-20 was 16, and the number of students serviced in 2020 and 21 was 19. And part of the program also involves a transition. So the belief is that within the Inspire program, a student would be in there for a period of time with the hopes of being able to transition back out into the mainstream classrooms. So with the understanding that with COVID, we had an abbreviated school year, we were able to transition 5 students out part-time at WAMS. And this past school year, we were successful in transitioning 17, and 16 were part-time transitions, and 1 is a full-time transition. So we want to definitely celebrate that. Next slide. I asked Mr. Taylor just for a brief quote regarding his experience with Inspire. And again, you can elect to read this, but by basically saying by having an Inspire, we're able to deliver a better instruction to both group of learners. Those students are traditional learners in the classroom, as well as our students who are needing additional social and emotional support in order to continue to make good choices in terms of behavior as well as academics. Next slide. In terms of the elementary Inspire, it is a little different in the sense that they do have 4 people on board there. We have a master level therapist, a teacher, a transition coordinator, and a behavioral monitor located at Fairview Elementary. However, it does service students from all 4 elementary schools. They average between 8 to 10 students. And again, it's a combination of regular and special education students. In terms of the servicing and data that the elementary Inspire has provided us, again, 60 minutes of therapy each week from a master level therapist, again, 7 to 10 hours per week of one-to-one instruction through one of the individuals in the classroom, whether it be the therapist, the transition coordinator, the behavioral coach, or the teacher. Last school year, we were able to service 9 students in the Inspire classroom, and this year we're servicing 11. The reason we're very fortunate that Affinity is flexible with us and will work with us. One particular student is been online for most of the year, however, has been part of the Inspire classroom on the elementary level. In terms of transitioning, we were able to transition 2 students last year and 2 students this year. I apologize for the font. It's really difficult to see. You can see it in your computer though. So in terms of elementary Inspire quotes from the elementary level, in your folder, you will find quite a collection of reflections. I believe Mrs. McGuire asked the school overall if they could provide some, and I think they provided close to 20. So they couldn't all appear in the presentation, but I mean, you could read through there where a teacher comments that the Inspire program has been such a blessing to our school. Some of our students who needed the most emotional support are finally getting the ability to work through their challenges. And again, you can continue to read that quote. Also, the Inspire program is allowing some learners who have experienced trauma to come to school in a safe space every day, building coping skills and resiliency while also maintaining academic and behavioral expectations. The Inspire staff has changed lives of those inside their classroom. They work collaboratively with the building and district staff to meet the needs of learners in their classroom, while also deepening the learners' connections to the school community and making them feel valued. So overall, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from both our teachers as well as the administrators regarding the 2 programs at WAMS and the elementary level. So tonight's presentation is looking at what are the possible next steps. So the next step in terms of Inspire, would we consider pursuing the Inspire program at WASH's? This is a quote from one of the Inspire staff at the middle school, basically saying that as a program, they are rewarded by seeing their learners grow each and every day. Talks about they are able to observe their learners take small steps in the right direction, and it obviously reminds them why the program exists and what it does to serve so many of the learners. In terms of WASH's Inspire, we were also looking at a master level therapist, a teacher, and a behavioral monitor. We're suggesting that it would be located in the same area that we have Endeavor and the Apex classroom areas. Again, they would take up to 15 full-time or 25 part-time learners. And again, it would be a combination of both regular and special education learners. So you might ask, why now at Washes? So obviously, as a result of a very challenging year, and again, we are going to continue to celebrate here in Waynesboro that we have done so incredibly well for our learners by providing in person, but we still recognize that it was a very challenging year for so many of our learners. So we're going to have to recognize that we're dealing with a post-COVID learning loss. And notice I say post-COVID because I'm hoping we're going to soon overcome the most challenging obstacle that I think public education ever experienced. Post-COVID learning loss opportunity, we're also looking at as post-COVID need to address the social and emotional needs of our students, helps middle school learners acclimate to WASHs, and it will allow to the continued servicing of both special education as well as regular education students. Just from a general perspective, and this is part of the first presentation, I attend all the Inspire meetings. The building principals are part of it. All the referrals go through me. I also am very close communication with Mrs. Sullivan if it is a special education student, and the administrative team and the Laurel Life team have really worked collaboratively through the referral process and monitoring student progress. And I guess this is my final slide, is we continue to provide first choice educational program for all our learners. The primary mission our schools are to continue to support include supports for all learners in attaining educational achievement. And to reach this goal, children must feel safe, they must feel supported and ready to learn. Learners' reactions to trauma can interfere considerably with the ability to learn and the behavior at school. Inspire provides a supportive environment for these learners. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions? And again, it is in your drive, so it might be easier to read. And then within your folder, you have additional quotes that are associated with the Inspire program from Fairview teachers and administrators.
And I do want to add that Dr. Erickson, and I apologize, I can't remember Bob's last name, but the gentlemen that were here from Pittsburgh with Key Solutions that are assessing our special ed and pupil student services department, they made a comment to me they did an exit interview with me today, and one of the things they said, they had several things they were taking with them that they learned from this district that they want to implement in other districts. And they said one of them was that they're taking home are the Inspire classrooms. And he said one thing that you'll find in this district, we have to look at how many support systems and things we have for our MTSS program for supports and interventions. But he said this one is a big one, and he felt that this is something they thought was very successful and impressed them, and they're taking it back with them to encourage other districts that they work with. And one of those, actually both of them have been school board members in other districts, so, and one still is. And that was one of the things that they said they were going to take back with them. So I thought that'd be nice to share.
Okay, and we'll be looking at discussing this further in a minute with a vote to approve or not. Okay, let's move on then to the business items for tonight. First one is personnel. Dr. Sterner.
Thank you, Mrs. Harold. I'd like to direct your attention to the personnel items listed in board docs. You have retirement of support staff, resignation of support staff, appointments of support staff, additional appointments of support staff, as well as appointments of game personnel. You also have a listing of several leaves of absences, and one more additional handout, resignation of GED staff, as well as appointment of support staff. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Questions for Dr. Sternerheim? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Administrative changes, Dr. Klein.
Okay, we have a couple things here with this. One, we have the director of First Choice Learning Legacy Networks job description that would need to be approved. Plus, we are asking as that is approved to also, as was presented to you, with some salary adjustments due to responsibility, some administrative changes that would take place as of July 1st.
Motion?
To approve.
Second.
Questions for Dr. Klein?
Dr. Klein, we're approving the paper you gave us
Yeah.
as
and-
well as the job description.
Yes. ma'am.
Both things.
Anything else? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Inspire contract. Who wants to do that one?
It
Just had
doesn't
the
matter. I don't
presentation.
mind doing
Okay.
it. That is the, as Dr. Sternerheim was talking about, we had entertained looking at the high school and offering an Inspire classroom. Because of the success in elementary and middle school, might look slightly different. We have some various options there that we think will help the district in the long run. And we're asking the board to approve that, to put it in for next year. And Mr. Holson, did we, yeah, I thought we put it in the budget. Yeah, so I wanted to let you know that it's already there. So if the board approved it, if not, we could take it out, obviously. So we are asking that the board approve that contract at an Inspired classroom at the high school.
Motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Questions? Anything before we take a vote? All right. Did you say yes?
I didn't catch, what's the length of this contract?
1 year.
Yeah.
1 year?
Yeah. Yeah.
I assume they're all 1 year? Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we just
Payments made
approved
quarterly.
we approved the elementary and the middle school.
It is.
Yeah,
Item,
right.
item number
Right.
9. It ends June 30th of 2022.
Okay, there's nothing else. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
Wow.
Policies.
Okay, the second reading, we had to table one of these the last time. I think it was, I don't remember.
There's
which
4 of them.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we had to make sure, went back, made sure that it was covered in the, it was just an oversight. It was covered in the policy committee. There was a sectional one to be removed, and there were a lot of boxes that needed X.
Yeah.
So that's what was going, Erin or Miss Kuzer went back and did all that. She had all the notes here, so went back and did what the policy committee had recommended.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move.
Okay, any questions? Had a chance to look at it? Any of the bold print somebody didn't like? Or check marks they don't like? Want to discuss? All right, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now for the budget. Mr. Holtz.
Thank you, Ms. Harold. So the preliminary budget for your discussion and action, it's a state requirement that the preliminary budget be approved a minimum of 30 days before the final budget is approved. So what this does is starts that 30-day calendar, and at any time after 30 days, once it's approved, the board can actually vote on the final budget. And that's put into place because the concept is to give the public time to look at the budget itself. We will post this information, the final budget or the preliminary budget that's approved. It will eventually get posted onto the website and be available publicly. Anybody can come into the lobby and take a look at a hard copy as well if they so desire. So again, we make this very available and transparent following the state law. The preliminary budget you have in front of you now has $65.5 million in expenses, but only $64.5 million in revenues. And so that's $1 million deficit. It's more specifically, it's about $1,038,000. However, those revenues include about $2.1 million of ESSER 2 money. So without that ESSER money, we would have about a $3 million deficit right now for the next year's budget. It does not include a change to the tax rate. The property tax rate would remain the same at 97.518 mils. It also doesn't include many other items. It does not include right now an increase for our teachers. That's still in negotiations at this point, and there is no increase for our teachers in next year's budget. It does include significant increases to cyber charter costs. We were spending about, or budgeted $2 million for this year. That number has increased to about 3.6 million. We literally had a 50% increase in students attending cyber charters this year. But we did offer virtual and hybrid options in the district. However, that cost is about 3.6 million, and that's reflected in next year's budget. Our medical insurance costs are also up of almost $1 million for two reasons. One is we had an 8% increase for those rates. The other piece is that we typically have been drawing down our fund balance in the medical reserves. We had what some would refer to as maybe overfunding in the medical reserve over a period of time. We've been drawing that down gradually, taking our time. However, we've pretty much reached the limit of where we could do that at this point. So normally we have about a $450,000 savings, so to speak, from the general budget that we're not going to see next year. That's what's causing that $1 million of medical aid costs. Our pension costs, because the state rates continue to go up, we're almost right at 35%. So you can imagine for every $100 in salaries, we have to pay $35 to the pension system. Those costs alone are going up about $243,000 in the budget for next year. And in fact, if you give me a quick second, I'll tell you that the number for the budget for next year for just the retirement system is $8.4 million. So out of that $65 million, 8.4 is strictly just for the budget. I mean, for retirement. I think I've covered almost all the other items. We did talk earlier about the Inspire. Dr. Klein asked me about that, and that's correct. We do have the Inspire for the high school in there. That is an ESSER qualified fund, so we could go ahead and use the ESSER money to pay for that. In fact, we could use that for the other ones as well. But nonetheless, without the ESSER funds, it would be a $3 million deficit right now.
Yeah, sure. Questions?
So I'm reading here under the public content. So I got what you said. So right now to get that million, whatever, if there's no tax increase in here, what type of tax increase would it take to get that million? So I'm assuming it's going to have to come from somewhere.
Correct. It does have to come from somewhere, because part of the issue that we have is that while we're using ESSER funds to get closer, while we still have a deficit, those ESSER funds will run out. So we do need to get our more stable revenues, so to speak, up higher. The state's not putting additional money at this point out for us. So really it comes from local funds as probably the primary source. To close that budget, you would have to probably do very close to a full Act 1 tax increase for next year. And that's an inflationary number that the state gives every school district. For us, it's about 3.99 mils. And I'm not doing that just to sound better than 4, but that's the number that they have is 3.99 mils. It's a percentage basis. It would require the whole percentage.
To make up that.
Yes, ma'am.
And the 2 million of the ESSER funds, I mean, eventually that's not going to be there.
Correct.
So that'll end up being a deficit at some point.
It would be. And as we use ESSER funds, and if our use of ESSER funds increases just to balance the budget, then we'll have a significant issue. It would be. To prevent that cliff from happening. ESSER increases just to balance the budget. Then we'll have
Nick, we're getting a lot of feedback here. You know that?
I think you're muted, Nick.
You're muted. You're muted, Nick.
I've been waiting to tell Mick that forever.
Mr. McDonald and Mrs. Sullivan, if you're not speaking, could you please mute your mic?
You know that?
Under your last sentence, the proposed budget uses 2 million two funding to balance the budget. Can you maybe add a sentence in there? This is available to the public, correct?
Yeah.
So we maybe add a sentence explaining what ESSER 2 money is.
Oh, certainly, we could do that. Yeah, because that question has come up, and I apologize. We throw these terms out, and we don't realize that we're using them a little too much. But sure, the ESSER this is federal stimulus money. And don't quote me, but it's elementary and secondary emergency relief funds.
As a result of COVID.
As a result of COVID.
Okay.
So
I
this
just
is
think it's
that federal
important
stimulus.
Because I do think it's going to come up in the community. What are you doing with all this money? Because everybody's saying, all this money's coming in, all this money's coming in. And it appears kind of like we're going to have extra money, and that's not the case.
No, unfortunately, it's not the case. And for a couple of reasons. One is this, and again, the primary reason is it's one-time money. And when it's one-time money, and if we're doing things that are going to be ongoing expenses, which typically in education, most of what we do is ongoing expenses. That's the nature of how we operate as a school. So if we spend that money and then don't have a revenue source to take over from that when that money runs out, then you have a tremendous fiscal cliff. And we really want to prevent that from happening. So that's our ultimate goal.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll do that. I will put some more information in there for that.
Other questions or comments? So somewhere between, or sometime between now and 30 days from now, if we're probably look at this first meeting in June, we have to come up with $1 million, pretty much where we are.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, we'll vote on the way it is then right now. We already have a motion? Do we have a motion, Aaron?
No motion yet.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the preliminary budget?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Okay, if there's no more questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Holtzman, for all your
Thank
work
you.
on that. Now to the financials, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. For your discussion and action, we have cafeteria and general fund bills for payment. And then we always include a summary level and then a more detailed level. And then we also have some purchase orders and requisitions. Again, even though it is getting to the end of the year, we still do have some items that need to be purchased. And then we also have the budget income and expense report, and we put variance information for you there as well. And that was under item 2.
Anybody questions on anything that you read in this week's budget information? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
Call for questions. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Holtzman.
Thank you.
Leighton Cabinet comments.
I have not. Oh, yeah.
Please go ahead. Dr.
You want to finish?
Sure, I just have a quick one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finance?
Kind of finance a little bit.
Okay.
I just wanted to give some information, and we were able to make the board aware of this at the end of last week, but this is really public information at this stage, and that is the pension system. If you probably have heard in the news that anybody who's been hired after June 30th of 2011 has a bit of a risk reward factor in their contribution to the pension system. So all employees have to pay into the pension system in Pennsylvania, school employees. And so what happens is if you were hired after that date in 2011, you had that risk reward. So they look at a 3-year time frame. When they initially looked at that 3-year time frame, everything was okay. The number was a strong 0.02%, I believe, above the number that would require them to change the contribution rate. After some additional calculations by the state pension system, it's below that level. So what that means is of right now, we have received information that says that employees who were hired after June 30th of 2011, they will have to have an additional amount taken off their paychecks towards the PSER system. It's about 0.5% for some employees, and it's about 0.75% for other employees, depending on their class. And it depends on when they were hired and what plan they chose. This is not a district issue. This is a state issue. And again, it's unfortunate, but that's what those retirement systems were set up for, to take kind of a risk reward. It can move in the other direction, but it's a 3-year window at a shot. So effectively, you would see more money coming out of your paycheck for that pension system. We looked at some numbers because we were thinking, well, really, how many people does this affect? Most people come to schools and we stay here quite a while, and in a good way, and it's a good, good to see that length of time with the district. But we were really surprised with turnover over the last, and this is really 10 years now. We're talking about going back almost 10 years. Believe it or not, this will affect about 300 of our employees. So you think that we're in that 560 range when you start thinking about substitutes and some other positions and such. This is a lot of employees in the district that it will affect.
300 out of how many employees do we have?
About 560 roughly is a close number. Again, that varies a little bit. Yeah, with substitute custodians and things of that nature that we would have. But yeah, it's a lot of people, a lot more than I was really amazed to see. We did, and I don't know if you have any questions on that. I really can't answer too much on it, but those people will be notified, by the way. The pension system will be notifying them and giving that information to them and telling them how it affects them here over the next month or two. And just as a small little side note, I just thought it would be interesting for people to realize that we did take a look at the data. We were just kind of curious about numbers and people. Believe it or not, as we were looking to see when people had been hired and comparing that for the pension system, we found out that we actually still have 3 employees, which is fantastic, who were hired in the 1970s and are still working here.
Wow.
And 14 were hired in the 1980s. And then the numbers go up from there. But if you think about that, 3 people were working in the 70s. Effectively, they've worked in 6 decades now when you think about that.
Can I be number 4? I was hired in the 70s.
And you're still on the
How about
board,
you,
so I
Ms.
guess,
Bakel?
Yeah, but we're not.
but you're still serving the district. So I think we can count you. I think we could make that number a little higher.
There we go.
So I think that would be very fair. So I just thought you might be interested in that number. Some interesting information with an unfortunate downside on the pension. Thank you.
Just want to make sure that the board had maybe perhaps an opportunity to view the video that was in the Friday folder. Our First Choice Legacy Team Roadshow has been completed. We have a more professional video that we're preparing at this point, but I'm very proud of the team. They were able to visit each of the buildings, and we provided a Google form for additional questioning, and we're continuing to build our teams. Also want to offer a huge congratulations to Mrs. Emily Goodine at Maury Elementary. She's the principal, but she's also, as of today, Dr. Emily Goodine. So big congratulations to Emily.
Yeah.
And I believe Dr. Royer has the flyer over there, but we're so super excited that Main Street Waynesboro, the Waynesboro Theater community, as well as Wayback Foundation, is sponsoring a movie night for all WASD employees as well as school board members, as in celebration of, it's basically Teacher Appreciation Week, but what we look at it is Waynesboro Area School District Appreciation Week. So individuals have the opportunity to sign up for a free movie with your +1 and popcorn and soda and some door prizes. So that's something exciting for our community. And again, once again, I just have to thank all faculty, staff, admin, school board, and our community has really rallied together this past school year to make this work for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Board comments. Ready?
So we would like to try to get at least one board member to come to each one to greet the teachers.
Mhm.
So the dates are, did we put this in our Friday folder, didn't we?
I think I sent in the Friday folder,
Yeah.
but I can make copies of that,
Yeah.
Dr. Royer.
I was going to say, can we cover before the next board meeting how many?
You
would
sent
be?
a separate email.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah. So, but we can definitely like.
So we're looking at for I'm looking before the next board meeting.
One is during a board meeting, I believe.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess we can look at way back to do that one. So May 3rd, anybody going to volunteer? We have May 3rd, May 5th, and May 6th would be next week.
I'll volunteer for May 5th, but that's dependent on getting someone to watch my mom. So
Okay, so May 5th is Wednesday.
is that Rocket Man Wednesday? Yeah.
Okay, and it's at I guess be there at
A little before 6.
It says 6. So
5:30.
5:30.
Mm-hmm.
5:30.
Yeah.
And
5:15.
yeah, and then if you're not staying for the movie, just till everybody gets in.
No, I want to stay for the movie.
Yeah, I want to go to that one too. Anybody for May 3rd or May 6th?
What are the other dates?
May 3, May 5, May 6, and then the following week, 10, 11, 12, and then 16.
Right.
That's a Sunday, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
the matinee that they're offering, because we do have night custodians that aren't able to go to an evening event. So I'm very appreciative of
That's
that.
very nice.
And I also picked that movie. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there the 3rd and the 16th for
I can-
sure.
Well, that's
10th,
two other
11th, or
movies.
12th, you said? I
I'll
could
get you a
do
flyer.
the 10th or 12th.
Yeah, I forget.
What's the movie?
The 10th is October Sky, and the 12th is Dirty Dancing.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Yes, there you go.
I can do the 3rd or the 16th. They're the only two I can do. So,
The 3rd and the 16th.
well, I don't want to do both, but I'll do one.
Okay, you want to do the
Since you're going to be
16th?
there. 16th? What time is that?
2.
Okay.
What time is? I'll do the 12th then, unless someone wants the 12th, and then I'll do the 10th.
So basically, we're just standing in the doorway, just saying,
Thank you.
we're appreciating you.
I appreciate you.
Talking hard to believe some of these movies you haven't seen on the big screen in like 25, 30 years. Yeah.
I know, I'm disappointed that Return of the Jedi is the 11th.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
all right, we'll
Thank
try
you.
to encourage some other people to help out with that.
I'll check my calendar, Dr. Royer, and let you know.
Any other comments? I would say that I was able to attend the all-school production, and I thought the kids did a very nice job under some very difficult circumstances, but appreciate their effort. Seemed like it was very well received. So congratulations to the kids and to Claire Martin and all the people that assisted her this year. And then maybe next year, hopefully, the virus will be gone and we'll have a regular full production like we're used to
It
having.
was just wonderful that we were able to do what we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they did a great job.
Okay, nothing else? Mrs. Kuzer, any comments come in?
No public comments.
Okay. If not, then we will be adjourning. We're going to go to executive session, but we won't be coming back. I'll use this because I never do. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. See you in a couple weeks.
Whoa.